With 20 minutes until a nuclear missile hit the United States, this movie focused on the multiple different perspectives surrounding what would happen if an ICBM was mid-flight over the northwestern Pacific Ocean and was set to land within the metropolitan area of Chicago, causing mass devastation and a huge loss of life. A House of Dynamite had a lot to say, and its abrupt ending was designed to leave us thinking about what we'd just spent 2 hours watching, and to answer the question ourselves about the outcome of this potential attack. So with that, let's discuss the deeper themes of the movie and break down that all-important, sudden ending. Here is A House of Dynamite ending explained. This video is going to contain spoilers, so I'm warning you now. The ending explained. A House of Dynamite had an ending that I truly didn't expect. This entire film was centered around a 20-minute countdown, and with countdowns, what we usually get is a sense of resolution. However, we didn't get that in the slightest with this film, which left me with a sense of frustration, but it was all done deliberately. The final perspective that we saw in the movie was focused around the President of the United States, the most important person in the country. And what we saw with him, with the missile getting closer and closer to hitting Chicago, was that even he, like everybody else on that call, he didn't have an answer or a solution of what to do. Nobody knew who the attack was from. There was no way of tracing it. They tried to take the missile out with the DSP satellites, but they failed, and it essentially meant that the president could allow the missile to hit and lose the lives. Or he could retaliate blindly, still lose the lives, but show strength in that the United States of America couldn't just be attacked. There were going to be American lives lost, but the other question was, will there be more innocent lives in another city around the world lost as well on that day? The title of the movie, A House of Dynamite, was essentially a metaphor for the world that we live in. Our world has all of these bombs and all of these plans where the walls are ready to blow at any moment, but we all just keep on living in it. What this movie represented was that the world could quite literally blow up and render the planet back to the state of when the dinosaurs were wiped out by the meteorite, which was shown to us with Olivia Walker's son's toy that she kept with her, and something that occurred in the opening scene when he was playing with them. That's why it got a heavy focus, because we essentially had our own meteorite on the planet. What the ending also showed us, and how it also connected to the title, was that even with all of these plans that were set in place, nobody truly knew what to do. Nobody wanted to take responsibility, and many of the different organizations had diplomatic responses and military responses, showing that even the powers that be were divided. The president was even turning to his wife for advice on what to do, who had no role in the decision-making whatsoever. It also shone a light on the reality of how this situation would most likely unfold. Chaos, video calls with people running around, and the heartbreaking reality that would be present within people's minds on how their family could be impacted by it, and the almost dehumanization that needed to take place in order to try and get the job done. People were gonna die, and there was simply nothing that they could do about it. Seeing the likes of Berenger mentioning how his wife was 6 months pregnant, the president calling his wife, and Reid speaking with his daughter who was in Chicago. It showed the very human things that were still front of mind, and how the prospect of losing those very personal things like that in this global catastrophe were still at the forefront. It was something else that was on the mind of those that were in charge that they needed to almost try and forget about. When it comes to why Reid walked off the roof, he did that following him speaking with his daughter that was in Chicago that would most likely die due to the missile. When they were on the phone, he found out that she was seeing somebody and was going to be walking to work with him, which brought Reid comfort. I feel like he found comfort in that because he at least knew that his daughter wasn't going to die alone and afraid, and she'd be with somebody. We saw how much he loved his daughter, and I believe that was why he walked off the roof. It seemed like he was going to be left with nobody in his life, nobody that he loved at least. It sounded like his wife passed away when he was speaking to his daughter, and judging by the photos on his desk, they didn't separate, and with his daughter then being killed, he'd quite literally have nobody. So he almost didn't view his life as being something that was worth living after that. What this movie did really well and connected to the importance of the title was that something like that could happen and none of us would truly know about it. Having it focused around a 20-minute countdown allowed us to see shots of people just going about their day, walking the street, smiling, and waiting in the doctor's office. All normal things that all of us do. None of them actually knew that there was an attack headed towards the country that they lived in, and that's also the harsh reality of having all of those nuclear weapons. When it came to the ending of the movie cutting to black, that was something that it did on multiple occasions when it flipped perspectives, and I interpreted it as it almost flipping to our perspective when the movie concluded and when the credits rolled. We essentially get to decide the outcome of the film. Did the president launch an attack? Did he allow the United States to be attacked and lose innocent lives and not retaliate? It was essentially a lose-lose situation, and judging by the looks of it and the fact that he had the folder open, I believe the president would have launched an attack on a nation that he didn't truly know was responsible for the missile. I also believe it cut to black so it could allow the message and the statement to sit with us for longer. The statement that this could quite comfortably be our reality. All it takes is a mistake and those very issues that we saw unfolding to develop, but like the majority of the public in this movie, we'd know nothing about it. You, I, and everybody else on the planet live in a house of dynamite, and that's quite literally what the movie wanted to tell us. One other thing that got a key focus in this movie was the reenactment of the Battle of Gettysburg. This was a battle between the Union and Confederate armies during the Civil War, and it's considered to be the bloodiest battle of the Civil War and of any battle in American military history, due to over 50,000 lives being claimed. I feel like this got a focus because it was showing us how now, warfare is something that's completely different to that, and more than 50,000 lives would be claimed. As we saw, it was in the millions when that missile was set to hit Chicago. My review of the movie. Now, I really enjoyed this film. I was expecting good things, but I didn't expect it to have the gripping nature that it did at its core. The countdown element was a great thing to have at the center of it, and it was something that truly allowed the suspense to build and for me to be on the edge of my seat for most of the movie. The multiple different perspectives over the same time period was a storytelling approach that I really enjoyed. It could have become confusing, but it actually did the opposite and provided a lot more clarity. I enjoyed getting teased moments on the call and then finding out what happened about half an hour later. This happened most with Reid Baker walking off the roof and us hearing something in the background of a call. I thought it was a really good way of keeping the audience engaged, and finishing with the president's perspective was also a good decision too. The way that this movie was filmed was something that I also really appreciated. It was almost filmed like there was a camera crew in the room like a fly on the wall. It was a mockumentary style with the shaky camera movements and it feeling like it was handheld with the whipping of it round and the very manual zooming in. It basically reminded me of the likes of Succession, especially with the tension that was present too. That's a high compliment in my eyes. I also thought the music was composed extremely well. There was sound under most of this movie, which added to the environment that was being established, but when push came to shove and the president had to make a decision, there was a motif that really reminded me of that piece in All Quiet on the Western Front, which just embodied dread and death. So having something underpinning that all-important scene, which needed to represent that same tone and feeling, it was composed perfectly and I can't fault it. When it came to the performances, it was a star-studded cast, but nobody dominated the screen. Everybody almost got similar amounts of screen time due to the perspectives, and they all delivered. Jared Harris was probably my favorite in this movie. That very human moment when he said, "My daughter's in Chicago." It was something that really hit the heart, and in that moment you could tell that he was panicking even more than he was before because he knew that she was going to die. I also thought Idris Elba gave a solid performance too. I don't think he ever does a bad one, to be honest, but again, with his performance, there was also these moments of humanity that were needed to really get across the severity of what was going on. He was almost like us in that situation and just not knowing what to do. Within this movie, the message cut through, the story was powerful, the performances were convincing, the environment felt real, the music was tonally appropriate, and the cinematographer did a great job. I'd suggest watching it. It's the weekend. Grab a bag of popcorn and throw on this political thriller. I don't think you'll regret it. So, there you have it. A House of Dynamite ending explained. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more of your favourite movies being broken down, then check the playlist below. What did you think of A House of Dynamite? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.